Stetson Bennett should not be throwing the ball 40 times.
No.
Welcome to My Gotta Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Wood. Today, John Powell and I sat down to discuss Georgia's loss to Alabama. We talk about what went wrong, what could have gone better, and what lies ahead for Georgia in this 2020 season. As always, please follow us on social media at My Gotta Podcast. And if you like what you hear, please give us a rating, 5 stars of course, on Apple Podcasts. If you leave us a review, we'll read it on an upcoming episode. Now, let's join our conversation in progress. Actually, I definitely feel like you needed to step away from the replay of the game.
I did need to step away from the replay of the game.
I have not watched any of the replay yet, so I'm going in blind, just straight what I remember. I think the only thing I've done is I read Seth Emerson's post game article, but that's the only thing I've looked at.
Yeah, I don't recommend it, Jim. I don't recommend it because all that you and I have done is kind of think on things, and we kind of recollect on our memory of the actual game from yesterday. But then you go on Twitter and you've got guys like Dog Stats that are amazing and wonderful, and they're throwing out all the film clips of some of the plays, and then me looking at those clips, I see all the missed passes that I saw live that you and I would talk about. And
yeah,
as I sat down to okay, fine, I'll watch the replay. I have to see if it's just like these handful of plays that we've seen where we just missed open receivers and open looks, or if maybe that was the only option that he had, and he didn't have any other options but to throw it into triple coverage. And it's just not great, Bob. It's not great.
Yeah, I mean, I was so jacked up after the first play of the game with immediate pressure and then interception. I was like, my wife was with Lily at her soccer game because they had a game really far away. So I was just at home with Ella, my oldest daughter. She actually at one point left to go kind of do her own thing. She was like, "Dad, I love you, but you're way too loud right now. I can't deal with this noise." And this was first half, right? When I was reacting to the positives. I was so jacked up. But yeah, I don't know. The instant pressure, I was like, yes, the defense is going to be able to carry us. And I still think could have if we had the right game plan. I wasn't a fan of the game plan, and I've been have not been shy of that on Twitter. Let me quickly run through, get our predictions out of the way. I actually just went through and jotted down to see what we had. So
do we have to?
Yeah, it'll be quick. Over under Najee Harris 150 yards. He actually had 152. So we both took the under and said that if he went over, that was bad news. That played out. Starting tailback was Zamir White. Although, we went to McIntosh, I think, on the second play of the game. That was interesting. And then McIntosh somehow only had 2 carries. So that was befuddling. Will the defense get a rushing touchdown? I said no. You were yes. You said yes. You were correct. Although they got that touchdown right after the bogus pass interference call. We can talk about that later. And over under 1.5 quarterbacks play for Alabama. I took the under, you took the over. I was right there. We only saw Mac Jones. And then final score, we were obviously wrong. Although you got the Georgia score right. You had 24, but we had Alabama only scored 20, both of us.
Oh.
So, I mean, I'll say, though, I feel like what we said could go wrong to lead to a Georgia loss is kind of exactly what happened. We said the Georgia offense didn't necessarily have to be perfect, didn't need to be world beaters, but needed to not be error prone. And, had that interception on the first drive. Like I said, I wasn't going to panic. If Stetson threw his first pick, although admittedly I totally panicked when it happened. I did not live up to what I said. And I was melting down, freaking out. But we righted the ship. Stetson kind of settled in after the first 2 drives. I guess it was after the first 3 drives. So we went
Yeah.
pick, punt, punt, but then the last 4 drives of the first half, we went touchdown, touchdown, field goal, touchdown. So, to that point, at least offensively, things were looking good. Just struggling with the passing tech of Alabama. I mean, I know Harris got over 152, but a lot of that I feel like was late when they were kind of milking it, and just ending the game. But man, their receivers were unbelievable. I'm ready.
The,
I'm ready for Waddle and Smith to be playing on Sundays.
yeah, they've been at Alabama for 1,000 years, and they've been punishing Georgia for all of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I know that you and Graham and a bunch of guys were talking about the game plan, which I don't disagree with. Like the fact that we didn't try to run the ball at all in the first few series.
Yeah.
We didn't really commit to the run. Like obviously we had runners. I mean, White. How many yards did White have? I mean, he had almost 100 yards rushing, I feel like.
Um, Hold on, I'll get there in just one second.
I mean, we
So
were averaging.
he only had 58 yards, but his net 57. So he had 57 yards, but he only had 10 carries. I mean, that's so. What I keep saying is that it was criminal. So Zamir White averaged 5.7 yards a carry. Kendall Milton averaged 7.3 yards a carry, and Kenny McIntosh averaged 6 yards a carry. Kenny only got 2 carries. Milton only got 6 carries. White had 10. James Cook had 5. And Cook obviously had the huge impact in the passing game with that awesome long touchdown reception. But
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't get it. And like in the lack of running, so look for it if you follow my Got a Podcast on Twitter or John or I. There was a very long thread, and I said it was the My Got a Podcast and Battle Hymnal crossover event that you didn't know that you needed.
Yeah.
We all went back and forth a lot on a lot of these points, but one of the most recent things was Graham talked about Georgia abandoning the run, and what I said was it wasn't even that we abandoned it; we just never committed to it in the first place. I mean, first 2 drives, 0 rushes, all passes, and then even when we were down, right? Like when Alabama first takes the lead, we were only down by 3, right? It was 27-24. I mean, there was no need to panic. We didn't need to. It was like the whole time we were just banking on it being a shootout. And I feel like we let it turn into a shootout by not running the ball. I mean, if we had played up 4 to start the second half, we could have played ball control and kind of try to keep them at arm's length. And if they score, a quick strike touchdown when they get the ball, that's fine. But shoot clock, with running the ball, get that 6 yards a carry average to eat the clock, slow the game down, and try to keep it a lower scoring game. It looked like we just signed up for a track meet, and that's not. We've talked about on My God a Podcast, play to your strengths, and I don't feel like we did last night.
Yeah, I think the talent utilization was certainly an issue. Yeah, man, I don't know. I really don't understand the game plan. But that said, yes, it would have been nice to see a lot more rushing, and it would have been nice to see more opportunities in the passing game that you and I have definitely seen. I mean, after I saw the dog sports, after I saw dog stats, throw out the gifs of all the missed plays and some of the clips from the game. Like I started to go back and watch the replay. That's actually how I decided I was going to watch the replay, because I couldn't believe that it was that obvious. Because I remember during the game, like there were multiple opportunities that we saw, and it was like maybe it was just those handful, but it does seem like that a lot of plays were really just left out on the field by the passing attack.
Yeah,
I really don't know I really don't know why it's almost like Stetson just wasn't able to run through his progressions, whether that's like a timing thing or whether it's just he wasn't told. I really don't know what he was told to do, because it seems
yeah,
like that he was just missing things left and right.
yeah. I know we texted about that, and I was texting about that with my dad as well. It looked like generally there was a check down that was available that he never made it to or something. And he really did hone in on Burton, it seemed like, for the night. And I know he did say in the post game that just going through his progressions, he just kind of landed on Burton. Like the plan wasn't necessarily, hey, let's get the ball to Burton. But that's kind of where the ball ended up going a lot as he went through his progressions. But I don't know. It felt like a lot of times when he went to Burton, McKitty was kind of dragging across the middle, or I know you pointed out some times where Cook was wide open in the flat and may still be running. Some things like that. I don't know. That's where I still get to the, and I know I sound like an old man, where I just want to say run the ball. But I mean, the running game was working. I don't know. I only saw the headline. I did not. I'll admit, I did not read the article. But I will say it was a. I know it was from Jason Butt. It was on the Rivals for UGA site.
Uh-huh.
But in his tweet, kind of teasing his article, it said something to the line along the lines of, "Did Todd Monken watch the tape of Ole Miss Alabama? To know that you can gash those guys via the run, right?" I don't know, and this statistically is backed up when you look at our yards per carry. We just didn't do the carries. I mean, Stetson Bennett should not be throwing the ball 40 times,
No.
and it's not like we got down early and had to throw to catch up, right? I mean, 3 minutes left in the third quarter, and we were only down 4
The
or
only
3,
thing
right? It was 27 to 24 late in the third quarter. I mean, there was no reason. I don't get it.
The only thing that I can maybe say in Munkin's defense is that yes, like we can talk all day long about whether or not we should have continued to run the ball, which I definitely agree with, especially given the fact that the likelihood of us turning the ball over when we run the ball is nowhere near as high as what it turned out to be when we do throw the ball, because the 3
Right.
turnovers, even if things went perfectly and we ran the ball, we had 200 yards rushing. If you throw 3 interceptions to Alabama, chances are you're going to lose unless those are wiped out with other turnovers, which, yeah, we had one. Basically, we each had a turnover washout. So,
Yeah.
2 turnovers to Bama's favor. They were +2. I have to figure that if you give them that opportunity, they're going to take it in the long run. Especially if you don't do anything about it on defense. Like, holy crap! Like the passing attack that they employed, the way, and it wasn't so much like that we were overpowered or overmatched or overmanned. Like, I feel like we have pretty good athletes, and there was a lot of good coverage for a lot of the game, but
Yeah.
there were ways that um, they were running their routes that schemed their players open, and
Absolutely.
and
Yes. Yes.
basically the crisscrossing at the line of scrimmage, like the causing the defensive backs to switch up and basically get completely mismatched, especially on that one score where Tyson Campbell just basically got left at the line by by Waddle.
That was like the 90-yard one, right? Is
That
that the
was
one
the
you're talking
90
about?
yard. That was the
Yeah.
90-yard one.
That was a very well designed play. The way I mean, there were 3 receivers over on that side, I believe, and just the way they crossed. And I I was trying to remember right when it happened, like, oh man, was that a pick or something? Like, how did that happen? But it wasn't. It wasn't a pick. It was just a well designed play. But yeah, they're great route runners. All those guys. Devontae Smith had that beautiful wheel route out of the slot. That he had. I don't think it was for a touchdown, but it was a big play. Yeah, I mean, their receivers are good, man. I wish we had those kind of dudes at Georgia, and I mean, we just don't right now.
So here's something that I'll say in our receivers' defense. So, yes, there was a lot of scheming and all kinds of whatever on the offensive side for Alabama, but like they do have the benefit of having a quarterback that delivered the ball exactly where it needed to be pretty much every single time.
Yeah,
Um,
he was very accurate.
you and I have talked about this pretty much all season long, and it definitely became an issue in this game, in my opinion, was when we would hit receivers, when we would hit them either in stride or on their routes, it would oftentimes be almost on the ground before they were able to catch the ball. So they were catching the
Yeah.
ball as they fell down. So there was zero opportunity for any yards after catch. And when Alabama is able to hit their wide receivers in stride, hit them underneath, and they're able to continue running as if nothing happened. Whereas our guys are having to dive all over the place to catch the ball. And this is something that we've seen in all of the games. And you saw it even on Burton when there was that pass that went behind Burton in the end zone where
Yeah.
he probably should have caught the ball. But again, these are things that other better quarterbacks don't do with these Alabama receivers. So, if he hits him in the numbers, if he gets it just a little bit in front of him, as opposed to where, or at least gets it to a position where he doesn't have to like slide and try to catch the ball, maybe he comes up with that catch. The
Yeah.
interception that happened when it bounced off of Burton's hands, you could make an argument, and I mentioned this to you too. Like, yeah, it's a bad throw. Yeah, it's a bad throw, but you have to. It's a bad throw, but you have to catch it if you touch it like that. If you put both hands on the football, you've got to come down with it.
Yeah,
Um,
I think we've talked to that probably the wrong read. Again, there was a guy, I know he was short of the sticks, but you could always run and catch and run. And I don't know if that was McKitty. It was either McKitty or it could have been D-Rob, I guess. It was 8 something. From what I saw in the screen grab, I didn't come back and watch that specifically because D-Rob was wearing 80 last night, which was weird. But yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you.
yeah, yeah.
I
I mean, like I said, he could have caught that ball, but maybe if he makes a better throw, it's a catch. But the
yeah,
decision to even throw it in the first place is something that I feel like is going to be much more long term, as far as like in his head and in our head and in our game planning. Is you can't fix the decision to throw into quadruple coverage like that. Like, there are 4 guys all around him, and the first play from scrimmage the first play where the first INT where Stetson threw it and the defensive lineman caught it. If the ball gets beyond the defensive line, there are 4 Alabama defenders all around. I think it was McIntosh that he was trying to hit over the middle, but there were like 4 guys there, and one of which was a linebacker that was in the process of stepping up to try to catch that pass. So like,
yeah.
just the decisions to make those dangerous throws are what concerns me the most right now with the mailman.
Yeah, well, that's the interesting thing, right? Is it's like when you're winning, that's called moxie, right? And we're like, oh, he's got moxie, he's got the gunslinger mentality, and it's great when you're winning. But then when you lose and there's 3 interceptions involved, you kind of take a step back and say, maybe let's not sling it around the whole field. um, but yeah, and I mean, and I feel like the other thing we're gonna have to deal with now is Alabama gave the blueprint of how to defend the mailman, right? So maybe you don't have to get to him. If you can't get to him, maybe you hold up on your rush a little bit and get those hands up. I mean, we're gonna be dealing with that for the rest of the season.
I mean, I feel like that. Yeah, I mean, that's what you and I were saying during the game. Is this all you have to do? Is to just kind of have these tall linemen just kind of stand there and hold their hands up? Like, is that all? Is
Yeah,
that all it takes? Because that's what it seemed like that we were doing, and we didn't seem like we had any answers. Like, we weren't really moving the pocket around. I mean, we did on a couple of plays, but like, you weren't really like moving him around, getting him move everybody around, whether it be the
well, that's just the
line.
thing that like I've heard my whole life, right? Around like if you got a shorter quarterback, you've got to move the pocket, you've got to find those throwing lanes. I mean, the classic example to me is always Doug Flutie, right? Like when he came into the NFL, when he was with the Bills and actually starting a lot, right? I mean, that's what they would do. They would move him around and you get the line to kind of spread out a bit, and then he can see through, right, to be able to find his guys. That's the other thing. I don't know if it was Graham. I think it was Graham Coffee where you had pointed out on the screenshot like a wide open receiver over the middle, and Graham said, "I'm not sure the mailman could see those guys through the line."
I mean, yeah, I mean that's a very legit kind of comment based on how things are going. But like, I mean, can he?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, there was a funny thread too with it was like Aaron Murray and Tavares King, and then like Chris Burnett, and like Tavares and Chris Burnett were making fun of Aaron Murray, saying that he's short. But then like Chris Burnett was making fun of himself, saying that he himself is also short, and that the only reason that Aaron Murray could play quarterback at Georgia was because Chris Burnett and Ben Jones were so short, so he could still see over them. And Aaron Murray was like, "Yeah, man, there's no way I could play behind this Georgia offensive line. There's no way I could see anyone." So I don't know. I thought that was pretty funny.
Maybe there's some truth. Maybe there's some truth there. I mean, Aaron Murray is a great example of a quarterback that I just, we've speculated about this. We've talked about this, that, you know, is I was about to say Aaron Murray. Is Stetson Bennett the best option, and why is he the best option that we have right now? Like,
Yeah,
I don't know. It seems like that we had the game. The game was so close for so long that I don't really fault the coaches with sticking with Stetson, even with the batted passes, even with the INTs, etc.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
he clearly can get it done. It's just he had probably his worst game in a UGA uniform, which
Well,
it,
I'll go ahead. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
which frankly is okay. Like the reality of the situation is we got our butts beat by a really good Alabama team that was well coached and well prepared for what it had in front of it, and it handled all of the adversity that it was presented with perfection. They played perfect,
Yeah,
with the exception of that one INT,
I
and
mean
they
the
were
first play
again,
of the game. Yeah,
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 with the exception of that INT and the fact that they were against the ropes, into the going into halftime, we were winning this thing for a while, and you liked our chances the way that things were looking, but
yeah. I
the
was feeling
real
good at halftime. At halftime, you were munching, and I was like, "No, we're fine." We were
I
like role
was
reversal at halftime.
I was Munsoning hardcore, man, because I was just getting really, really frustrated with the batted passes. Like it just seems like that there were, I don't know, man. And I was noticing that there were open looks. Like I think even freaking Gary Danielson, like at one point pointed out that, had he dumped it off to McKitty or to Cook, I can't remember who it was, they could have basically walked into the end zone.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
you're
yeah.
seeing that kind of stuff live, and when Gary is seeing that stuff live, like to me that just screams that there are significant issues with what's going on in his head. But the reality
Yeah,
is that if you have a bad game, great. It's okay to have a bad game. The season was not on the line last night. I think that for a lot of us, it was pride, and at this point, it's becoming very prideful. This game is that
yeah,
we've got to beat this guy. We've got to beat these guys. They seem to have our number every time. It's almost like a Florida level
when we
scenario
were in
where
school.
yeah, when you and I
Yeah,
were in school, we could never get
yeah,
past Florida, and so. Um, the good news is just like Fromm, and I'm hoping that this all pans out like Fromm's year, where we went to Auburn and we got our butts beat by Auburn. We were riding high, and then we came and took it all the way back to Atlanta and avenged that loss. And so
yeah,
I do, like I said, I do think that the plays were there. I think we had opportunities had things been executed. Now, I'm hoping that the coaches will go back and look at some of these running plays and question why did we only hand it off twice to McIntosh? Why did Zamir White only have 10 carries? Those kinds of things are definitely worth a second look. But
yeah.
you at least have the option to continue the season as opposed to end the season on a loss like that. And I'm hoping that
Oh
they
yeah, this is not 2017 slash 18 or 18 losing to Alabama. But we've still got a lot of football to be played. So totally different feeling. And I mean, neither of us picked us to go in undefeated in the preseason in our preseason show. We were thinking 8-2, 9-1. That's still on the table, obviously. Um, we still control our destination. I won't say destiny because destiny by definition is uncontrollable. Um, But looking at our destination of Atlanta, that is still firmly in our grasp. Georgia controls that. You lose again, then you need help. But as we stand today, that destination is still controlled. So what do we say though? We've talked a little bit about the defense, but just high level, like I don't know. And I'll just kind of make my statement for you to react to it. I somewhat give them a bit of a pass. I think that we definitely had some breakdowns in the secondary, obviously, to give up those long pass plays. But with the turnovers in the second half, the amount of time they were on the field, and I'll say, I didn't think they could wear us down with our depth. I would say I was wrong. They did, but I also didn't expect 3 turnovers like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I still feel like this is a great defense, and we're looking at an incredible defense. And I'll say something. I had thought this, but hadn't said it because I didn't want to. But Josh Hancher, Dog Stats, said it on Twitter, so I'll say it now. I just hope we don't waste an all-time defense like this, because this
Yep.
defense, it's still special. And I just hope that we can get the offense in good enough shape to not waste having a defense this good.
Yeah, that is definitely a worry that I have, that we would waste one of the best defenses. And I think you and I have kind of talked about this as well. Is like, it just seems like that we can't get the right combination of coaching, player personnel, quarterback, whatever, however you want to describe it, the defense. Like, we can't time all of that the same way that Alabama has. It just seems like the Alabama is just able to completely reload everything from coaching staff to player personnel to quarterback to everything, that they're able to just get the job done no matter what happens. And for us, it just seems like that
Yeah, there's always something missing. It's like
exactly,
the defense is great,
exactly.
the offense is behind, or the offense is great, the defense is behind, or something.
Yep.
Yeah. Hmm. Well, I guess special teams, we said keep it up, and Camarda still did a great job punting. Both punters actually. Alabama's punter was also excellent. Um, the punting was excellent from both teams. Alabama actually made a long field goal, which told us, hey, it definitely is 2020.
Yeah.
And then Hot Pod missed his late. So I guess I don't know. Maybe he's not Hot Pod. Maybe we shouldn't say Hot Pod anymore. You still need to come up with something better. Although I will say, I don't want to totally ignore this, but I also don't want to have this be like an excuse and say it's why we lost. I think we got out coached and outplayed, and so that's why we lost. But just the things like, let's put a second back on the clock so they can kick a field goal. Let's review every questionable catch for Georgia, but never review a questionable catch for Alabama. It's always holding or pass interference on the Georgia defensive backs, but the only way we can get that call is when George Pickens is completely tackled. I'm not going to ignore it, and I would recommend everyone to read Graham Coffey's open letter to SEC officiating about that fact. And I'm now adopting his line that the referees' paychecks are always cut out of Birmingham. So I like that line. So whatever, but I don't want to act like that's the singular reason why we lost. But it certainly didn't help anything.
Yeah, there were definitely some egregious calls, that like conveniently timed pass interference play that kept their drive alive. That would have really been nice had we, had we gotten forced them to kick a field goal, as opposed to putting the ball on the 1 yard line and giving up our rushing touchdown streak.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
there was that one, and then there was the other one earlier in the game where we basically ended their drive. I think they would have had to punt, or it would have been a really long field goal where they called defensive holding on Stokes. And like, by the letter of the law, I'm not going to say it wasn't holding, but I'm all about like equal opportunity penalizing and call it the same both ways. And the only way we could get a holding call was that one time when Pickens was literally tackled to the ground. So I don't know. I just like to see it called the same ways for both teams, and I felt like it wasn't. Again, I don't want to act like that's the reason we
the
lost, but
reason we lost, yeah.
it didn't do us any favors. Yeah, that was about at least, I don't know, I would say 4 points, at least 4 points, with that Campbell, or not, sorry, Stokes, the one in the end zone that you were talking about.
Yeah, I think that was something that Gary Danielson mentioned, was that it was the penalty had cost us 4 points, and then yeah, You just hate to see the officials impact a game like that. And then you've also got at the end of the first half, we also gave them some free points too by allowing them to storm down the field and kick a field goal
Ugh. Yeah, that was brutal.
right after we had scored a touchdown. And so it's like, geez, like that was what when you when you said that I was Munsoning, like that's how I was. I was like, are you kidding me? Like they scored so fast in that first half. And like that first touchdown was just incredibly fast. I didn't realize how fast it was until I watched it on the replay. And I was just like,
Yeah.
holy cow, I can't believe that just happened.
Yeah, that was quick. That was like a let's see here, 3 plays. Yeah, I mean, ugh, that was brutal.
Well, yeah, it was so quick after. I guess the quickness is relative, but it seemed like it was so quick after we had intercepted them. Like we intercepted it, and then bang, they scored a touchdown.
Yeah,
Like,
they threw an interception, we threw an interception. They went 3 plays, 58 yards, and 52 seconds after their pick. I mean, yeah, it was lightning fast. And having that come after our first defensive possession, where I mean, Ojulari just comes in and hits Mac Jones, LeCount with the pick. I was riding so high, like I jumped out of my seat. At one point, I thought I injured myself. I think I injured myself on the James Cook touchdown. Actually, I'm feeling much better today. Thank you for asking. But I thought I pulled something celebrating that one.
oh man, old man Jim.
Yeah, I'm a man. I'm 40. Get off my lawn.
Yeah, well, let me just tell you that everything that happened to us was under the umbrella of the loss that we had at the Braves game. So as you know, I was at the Braves game, and we actually
Well,
went.
you were at Truist Park watching on the outfield like jumbotron, right?
I was. Yeah. That was a
Yeah.
really cool experience too. So, we went in riding high that afternoon because we got there to the stadium all full of life and full of joy. And by the time that the evening ended, I was in a dark place of Atlanta sports, man.
I had to step away from the Braves when they went down because my wife took my youngest to a soccer game, like I said, pretty far away, like 2 hours away. And so I took my oldest. We did a dinner date. We went out for hamburgers, and it was funny. We actually the people sitting next to us, the table next to us outside on the patio, were all Georgia fans. So we had a couple of Go Dogs back and forth. And then I kept telling my daughter that I was going to embarrass her and ask them if they listened to My God, a podcast, and suggested if they didn't. And she was like, "Dad, stop! You're embarrassing me." So I didn't bring it up. I spared her the embarrassment. But so that was at least a little fun. And yeah, the first half was great. We could just kind of pretend that it ended. I mean, hey, all the points that we thought were going to be scored were scored in the first half. I had 23-20 Georgia. You had 24-20 Georgia. We only were predicting half the game.
Oh, that's right. I forgot to predict the second half.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. We messed up there. I don't know what else to say about it. I feel like it's at this point. You know what? Alabama's very good, and you know what? The national folks seem to agree. I don't know if you saw. We only dropped down to number 4 in both the coaches and AP poll. So you know what? Like we're still right there. We only dropped, I guess, one position in both. Like we said, we still control our destination, and they are not on our schedule again as of today. So,
yeah, that would be nice for us to just kind of forget that this ever happened and just kind of move on. And that's kind of how I felt about it when you and I were texting about when we were gonna do the recording for the day. I was like, yeah, do we have to? Like, but.
It makes me feel better to talk this through with you, though. This is a bit of a release for me, so I appreciate it.
I mean, that's kind of and your take on our destination. We control our destination. Like, yeah, you're right. Because if both of these teams run the table, they'll be seeing each other again, and at that point it'll be 0-0, and no one will even be talking about the interceptions.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, nothing that happened yesterday. If we make it to Atlanta and see those guys again, nothing that happened yesterday is going to matter.
Right.
So you're winning. We're going to be a you win and you get to keep playing scenario at that point. But now focus turns to Kentucky, and I got to say we were both mad, or I was very mad. I was mad at Greg McGarity. Although I think Seth Emerson set us straight on the need to move all the games and reschedule everything. But now we've got a bye week coming up, and then Kentucky. After having that happen yesterday, I think that's actually a good thing at this point. I think now it's turned out to be for the best to get a bye week now before Kentucky.
Yeah, hopefully it'll give us an opportunity to, maybe it gives JT Daniels a chance to continue to get healed up.
Don't give up the mailman. I don't.
Well,
I'm at that point where I'd be surprised if we trot somebody else other than mailman. I'm not saying that he's not a world. We saw his limitations. We saw his limitations last night. They were on full display. But I still would be surprised if we switched.
What I would like to see is options. Right now, it feels like we have no options. So that's the only reason I bring that up, because, I am somewhat surprised that we didn't have, like I said earlier, that we didn't try Mathis. You know what I mean? At least give him a chance to do something that maybe Stetson can't do.
You just completely relegated the mailman. That's what you said to me on episode 2.
And you know what? I'm just at a point where, if the shoe had been on the other foot and Nick Saban was coaching as the Georgia Bulldogs head coach, things just weren't going as well as you hoped, and clearly you weren't getting things done. He completed less than 50% of his passes in a game where he threw it 40 times. That is a glaring problem in the passing game. And so you just wonder, okay, he's not getting it done, and we're not getting it done as much as we need to. Well, let's just trot out Jalen Hurts, or let's trot out Tua. Then they throw out their second option as let's see what happens, kid. We need some help. Let's see what you can do. It just seems like that we don't have any options other than Stetson.
Well, it's interesting because that's what happened in the first game, right? With Mathis. I know I was surprised. I said I was surprised. You weren't, but I was surprised how quickly we returned. I just get back to this though. You can't throw 22 incompletions when you don't throw the ball 40 times because you're running the ball. Run the ball.
Run the dang ball, Bobo.
All right, man. Well, I'm assuming Georgia has a bye week. I think we're probably going to take a bye week this week as well, right? So we'll probably be back the following week, by Thursday, leading up to the Kentucky game. We'll be back out for our listeners with the Kentucky preview the Thursday prior to that game. But I think we'll probably take a bye week this week as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think we all need a break after that, especially given the fact that as of this recording, we still have a Game 7 to potentially cry about too. So just I'm preparing myself.
Yeah. So those who are listening, you're in the future from us now. So you already know what happens with the Braves. We did not yet know. I will say go Braves. I'm going to watch and I'm going to cheer. But I grew up in Atlanta. But no, I'm not going to say that. Let's go. Come on. Let's go Braves. Go Braves. Go Braves. Chop on. Mix it up. All of the things.
For the A.
For the A. God, I had forgotten one. Good. Hey, Julio Jones did the Falcons won today, right? Got that monkey off their back. Julio Jones did the mix it up celebration. That can't be anything but a good sign for the Braves. I'm going to take it that way.
Awesome. I would agree with that. That's a pretty good omen there.
Nice. All right, man. Well, we will. We'll keep talking, and we'll get back together for the Kentucky preview. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.